Any discussion on the minutes from last meeting?
One request, can I get a copy of the minutes and stuff? I apologize for the
Have we ever finished those?
Yes, they were approved at the last meeting and signed off on it, so they're ready to go. Yes, if you'd like to come by, or I can bring by a copy of the medical stuff.
I had a question about the hematology and the $100,000 lease agreement. Who owns the equipment?
Well, basically, at the end of the 5-year lease, we do for $1.
Who owns it now?
McKesson. We lease it from them. It's a capital lease.
Lease purchase thing.
Yes.
5-year lease, is that what you said?
Yes, sir.
Roughly, what is the hematology agreement?
The hematology machine we will purchase outright based on a contribution from the Lincoln County Hospital and Health Care
Is that the $13,000?
I'm not sure. It's approximately that. We're still in the process of acquiring that.
I thought you talked about another piece of equipment.
Excuse me?
I thought you talked about another piece of
We
equipment.
were talking about the chemistry machine, which is
Yeah.
$106,000 or $7,000, and that's what we went with the lease on. And then the hematology machine will be approximately $13,000, and we should be adding that to the equipment inventory before the end of the year.
Any other? Then I have moved that we approve the minutes with no adjustments. All in favor say aye.
All right.
Opposed, same sign. Mr. Treasurer, I see that we've had a big interest payment again here. Anything else to add to this? Any comments about it?
No, not really. It's what you see. Almost $40 in interest. Since you've taken over. Yes. Good job. Mr. Chairman, we are done problem here. We accept the treasurer's report as presented.
I'll second.
Motion is made and accepted to accept treasurer's report as presented. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We have accepted it. Stephen, are you ready for your medical report?
Yes, medical staff met this morning. The one action for the board coming out of that is they did reappoint Patrick C. Leonard, M.D., to the consulting staff with all requested privileges. Patrick, Jill is spelled P-A-T-R-I-K, middle initial C, last name Leonard, L-E-O-N-A-R-D, M.D.
Is he a radiologist?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Is it what?
Radiologist.
Okay.
One of our consulting radiologists.
Where's he from?
I'm not sure. I believe he's with United Radiology and so on. we use a variety of services through
Right.
United Radiology, and they consult with radiologists across the country. When the packet comes around, it'll probably say in there somewhere, but we put them through a credentialing process, and they're available 24/7.
Somebody do that for you, or?
The credentialing process? Yes, we farm that out.
One year we had veterinarians overseas.
We get all kinds of things.
Well, we know some cats. You would. I guess if you read x-rays, and everything.
There's a pretty comprehensive package. Is that characteristic of all of this?
Yes, sir, it is. That's the re-credentialing. The more comprehensive package is the initial credentialing. I don't know if you've seen them. They usually come in a green folder, and they'll be about twice that. Once they've been credentialed by us, the re-credentialing is much less paperwork.
How many years has he been on the consulting staff?
I do not know. We usually renew these about every 2 to 3 years, so at least that long. But beyond that, I truly do not know.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I'll make a motion to approve Patrick C. Lennon, radiologist, for consulting privileges for his medical staff.
Second it.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve Dr. Leonard to the radiology staff with all privileges. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Passes.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to introduce my staff who is here. If you don't know them, I'd like to introduce Krista Hasemeyer. She's Chief Nursing Officer. Nancy Karst, RN, runs our risk management, quality improvement. And Jessica Winkler, MLT, is with our laboratory. So I'm happy to introduce them to the board and happy to have them here. Thank you, ladies.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it. Couple of things. A number of items happened toward the end of the week, and so not everything ended up in your board packets. So I'm going to pass out several items here before I get much further into my presentation to the board. This is an email I got from Mr. David Gersman regarding a request for our agenda, which I basically, based on the wording, provided him with an agenda earlier today. Also provided one to his wife when she called here. So those agendas, I've forwarded Mr. Gersman's complaint to Dick Hay, who is our attorney, and I'm waiting to hear from him so we can chat about what constitutes an agenda, what we do have to provide under the Kansas Open Meetings Act. It's unclear to me, after talking to several of the other people with public bodies in this community, that all they provide actually, for the most part, not all the time, but for the most part, is just what's called for, which is the agenda. Most of the transactional business is not handed out at those meetings or prior to the meetings. I believe you can request it later through Kansas Open Records request. And I'm going to clarify that with our attorney later this week, Dick Hay. But I just wanted to make that point. Mr. Gersman has sent several emails. I copied that to you in your packets last week. I wanted to provide this one this week. So we will go from there. To follow up on last month's meeting when we had the presentation from our auditor, Eric Otting and Cameron Worth, to discuss our audit results, it became clear that we had not met our debt service requirements under the compact we have with the Public Building Commission, and that we needed to undertake a review, at the very least, our charges and revenue processes. So we have embarked on that. We signed a contract with Great Plains Health Alliance to do a charge master review to make sure that our charges are intact and not intact, but up to date, and everything we can do with that. The other things we're doing, I'm not going to be quite as...
I'm sorry, could I ask a question about that last point? Didn't we get CPSI from Great Plains?
I do not know.
So CPSI doesn't work through Great Plains?
No,
They have no.
no, that's,
Oh,
yeah.
all right, I thought they did.
No, Pratt has CPSI. They're not a Great Plains Health Alliance. CPSI is pretty much a national committee or a company that specializes in smaller hospitals with their... They started off accounting software and then branched out into medical records.
Okay,
Okay?
thanks.
So, yeah, no, there's no affiliation.
Okay, good.
So, part of the other things that I've been asked about is cost cutting. That's difficult at this point in time because a lot of our basic operating expenses are baked in the cake, as Mr. Otting pointed out.
What does that mean?
One of the things I will mention is that I'm going to sit down with our two new physicians and start looking at what we can do more efficiently within both of our rural health clinics. I know when we were first discussing this, one of the things that Eric said, if you really wanted to cut costs, we would close the Sylvan Clinic. I don't really want to give up on the Sylvan Clinic. I kind of like to look at seeing what we can do personnel-wise, some things of that nature, looking at other sources of income One of the things we'll be looking at seriously is adding immunizations to our array of clinic services. That's will be good for us. It will hurt the health department because we'll be competing with them for that business. But with the county cutting, basically $120,000 out of our county funds, I think we have to look at every revenue stream we can for that. We'll look at a couple of other things. At the convention 2 weeks ago, a friend of mine has a business with doing electroencephalography, EEGs, brain scans, and so they're looking for a very small market to market that in. So those are a couple of the items that we're looking at. Hate to hurt the health department, but I don't think we have any choice in going after that piece of business. It rounds out our business, and I think that's what we need to stay healthy here in Lincoln, as well as improve our service offerings in Sylvan Grove. I know when pressed in a couple of the meetings, I mentioned the big cuts. We wanted to do something big, would be to cut Sylvan Grove. But in looking at it, I think we have a service commitment we've made there. I think our visits are growing slowly, but they are growing over there. And I think we ought to go ahead and try to push that for a while and do some things of that nature. But we'll look at a couple of different things, including reducing personnel and things of that nature. Yes.
Well, I have two questions about immunizations. One is, I guess I don't see how it's going to work. If people can get, basically free immunizations at the clinic, why would they want to pay for them at the doctor's office? Like, a lot of that is...
Well, it goes both ways. I don't believe they get free immunizations. I think they charge the insurance. I go there for my flu shot because they get the double dose for people who used to smoke for me, and they charge that to
insurance.
Yes.
I just thought they had special programs in place for underserved or poor.
Well, yes, and we do as well. And that's part of what we're looking at here. When you look at our payer mix, which Eric talked about very extensively when he was here, 81% of the business we do in the hospital is Medicare.
Right.
Okay, and as you know, we're allegedly cost reimbursed by Medicare, but not really because of the sequestration. That cuts at least 2% from our reimbursement. They also limit the amount of money we can charge to them for bad debt and things of that nature. So actually, at any particular time, we might only be getting 85 to 90% of what it costs us to actually provide the care when you take into consideration all of the things that are going on with that. Now, that the same is true with Medicaid and Blue Cross and Blue Shield, which are our other two biggest payers.
Mm-hmm.
Not as much in the hospital, but in the clinic they are. Blue Cross and Blue Shield caps what they pay us. Medicaid is a travesty for what they pay us. And so, but Medicare in the clinic, Medicare, Medicaid, and Blue Cross and Blue Shield, which are all capped payments, it's hard to get a new revenue stream going with them. That makes up 83% of our business. And so, if we're going to survive, number one, we're going to have to cannibalize part of the health department's business. But number two, I need the board basically really start lobbying our county commissioners that if they want a hospital in Lincoln County, they're going to have to subsidize it. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts. That's the way it is. That's just currently the way of the world that we live in. We can look at some cost cutting, but, and we are considering that. But you know, the county commissioners at their meeting said the reason they made the cuts they did, and the cuts they made were basically with the social service agencies, the hospital, Lincoln Park Manor, and then the area agency on aging. And those are all institutions that, again, we primarily support the elderly in this county. So basically our county commission is, undercutting elderly services in this county to basically offer raises to their employees, which I think, their employees should be get raises. But we have a very competitive environment for medical personnel as well. So, nursing, radiology, laboratory, we've been trying for months to recruit new laboratory personnel. It's very hard to get those people to come out of Salina or Wichita or Denver or Kansas City to work and live in Lincoln County. So we'll always be dependent on the county, but if we're going to survive, we're going to look very closely at our expenses and move forward on that. But that's not a magic wand or a snap of the fingers that we can do immediately, and it may hurt us in the long run if we can't staff and have to rely more and more on agency staffing. And I know we've heard about agency staffing. And I do have another piece that I wasn't able to get into the board packets. But if you pass this around, this talks about factors that influence students in choosing rural nursing practice. This was a study that was done, so I'm going to make that available to you. That goes along with part of what I wanted to discuss with you tonight in light of our meeting and the subsequent meetings, my subsequent meetings with the Board of the Public Building Board and the Board of County Commissioners. And I do appreciate Mr. Weber attending those meetings. Mr. Serene attended those meetings. We had several people attend those and go from there. Did we run out and not make enough copies?
Here you go, I don't need one.
Okay. I thought I had 8 copies.
I took one, I'll give that one.
Okay.
I had one more question about the immunization thing.
What?
Well, I think it took Ellsworth like over a year. I'm not sure they've done it yet to get that set up. How long do you anticipate it's going to take?
Well, we're going to have I'm going to start the planning meeting will be this Friday with the doctor's chief.
Right.
One of the things that we have now that we did not have in the past is actually a paraphysicians. We want to sit down and talk about the clinical operations of both the hospital and the rural health clinics so that we can address those kinds of issues. So I'm going to sit down with them. We've got to find the personnel on our clinic nursing staff that are willing to help us set this up and get it going. But yes, you can't wave a magic wand and make it happen.
So it's not like a short-term solution at all?
No, there are no short-term solutions. There just aren't. There's no magic bullets in any of this. Now, the other thing that we've got going on clinically, we've still had, if you look at your payables, you'll notice at least one, maybe 2 more 340B kinds of payments. Mm-hmm. We've restructured our 340B alliances with another consultant. And so we're looking at better management, better pharmacy management in that so that we don't have the slip-ups we had with our last management company. And so we've thoroughly vetted the fellow who's doing this for us. He's originally from over by Minneapolis somewhere and has been a pharmacist for a while. But we're looking hopefully in October that the program we've signed up with him will start generating between $7,000 and $9,000 in income per month. Now that's a start. It's something, but we're not going. And again, there are no big pots of gold out there for us to get all of this income back, this $260,000 that we basically need to go forward. So I wanted to start off my part of the meeting with those particular items.
Are
Just-
the 340B payouts done now? The paybacks?
We hope so. We had a couple more in this
Right.
month's,
Yeah, I think
Right.
they're all included.
and we think we are done. But you don't know what's hiding in the woods out there. So that's just our best estimate. Okay. Now, the other thing, based again on last month's meeting with the auditor, is we have filed the cost report. And Tanya, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we're getting approximately another $35,000 from the federal government by filing the cost report. So that will be a positive thing. All right. One of the things that we have been discussing with the county and that we have finalized is we were asked for copies of the past budgets that we have filed with Public Building Commission / Board of County Commissioners. We did dig into our files and we came up with 5 or 6 years worth of those budgets. But over the course of time, computers crash and we lose stuff. I think the county had a problem with that. The Road and Bridge Department recently with some files that went bad. So anyway, we have tried to provide that information to the county commissioners through the county clerk, Don Harlow. And I hand-delivered those to her office, not to her, but to her office, approximately 10 days ago. Other community things we're involved with, as you know, the Port Authority for Lincoln County is applying for a grant again to pave the runways. And as I did 3 years ago on behalf of the board, I sent a letter of support for that project through the local economic development program to support getting that for the runway. Again, that's important to our medical mission here, that we have a hard surface runway. It'd be nice if we could have an all-weather airport, but I don't think that's going to happen. But a concrete runway would be, no, not the shortcut. I don't think we'll have ILS here.
No, but we can get a GPS approach.
Right.
That's not out of the realm of
Yeah.
possibilities.
So, but anyway, that will improve the availability of emergency services for us. So we will go with that. One other thing that didn't make it into the packets, but which I wanted the board to see, and we have gotten back. Medicare has what they call the Medicare Beneficiary Quality Improvement Program, MBQIP, and this is basically a series of satisfaction surveys that they do. When we discharge a patient, Medicare will identify them and ask them to participate in the survey. Most of the people refuse, but last year we did have 100 people that did agree to answer the survey. This shows how we stack up both with the rest of the state of Kansas and also nationally. And as I have said before, I am very proud of the work our people do. On most of these measures, if not all of them, but most of them, we outrank all of our peers in the state of Kansas as well as nationally. And to that, the people who get credit for that are the people that do the day-to-day work. Krista and her nurses, Jessica and the people in the lab, radiology, but also in dietary and environmental services, the housekeeping and things of that nature. This takes a concerted effort to have that kind of excellence in a hospital this small. And so they all contribute, all the nurses, everybody of that nature. So it's, I think that reinforces the materials I shared with you earlier this year, how we just stack up in the state of Kansas. And we continue on that, on that path to excellence. I'm going down my list here in no particular order, as you are all aware I do. I included in your packets, we had some discussion about the status of Dr. Dragoni's license, and there was a piece of paper in there, a download for you to review. I don't have any comments on that. That's just for your information. If I were to be asked to speculate about it, I would not accept an executive session. So, but otherwise, I don't think it's anything further that we need to do. This was a piece of information that just kind of snuck up on us, but we did find it downloaded, and I provided it for you all to see, and we'll go from there. Okay. The last thing is that it appears that for all intents and purposes, Dr. Dragoni has moved out of the house he was renting from us. I took the liberty of inspecting the premises last week, took some pictures. I will pass. That's this side is cut by your right hand, but I'll pass those around. The pictures are inside and outside. You can see the inside fairly clearly. I'm no expert, but Steve Ladd walked around with me. He thinks the house is still fundamentally sound, but if we want to do anything with it, it'll have to be kind of gutted and redone. It's just carpets are stained, the roof is leaked. I did not go in the basement. I wasn't dressed for it. I didn't have my beekeeping outfit on me, so the nasty bugs and things. But the other thing that needs to be done, and Alan, we worked on this about 5 years ago, is cleaning up the outside. There's a lot of lilac bushes that need cut off, trees that need cut down and treated with Toradol and some things of that nature. But again, it's one of those things that, from what I am told, the board originally purchased that house as a place for locum tenens physicians who were doing ER coverage for us could stay, as well as other people who were doing locum tenens for lab or x-ray and things of that nature. And this was all before we remodeled and built the sleep rooms upstairs in the north end of the hospital. That's the story I have to the best of my knowledge. One of the things the new medical staff wants to do and would like to do in cooperation with the medical school in Salina is have third-year medical students, family medicine residents come up, and we start having a teaching environment here where we actually do some teaching. There are a couple of benefits to that. The biggest one is you get a look at a lot of medical students that are allegedly, supposedly tied to a rural rotation in the state of Kansas, which this week, as we've noted before, Lincoln County is a frontier county. We're also an underserved area for a low-income population. And I think we're all aware of that particular population statistic for our county. So again, the board decision about whether you want to go ahead with that kind of investment and trying to do those education things. But if you do, it's a good recruitment tool, and it could benefit, at least the medical part of the community going forward into the future.
How long would these stints last, and what would they cost us?
Well, it's free help. It costs
Okay.
us basically remodeling the place, providing them a place to live, and then meals. And that's basically what it costs us.
And then how long are they usually is it a year or 6 months or
No,
1 month?
it's usually a couple of weeks at a time.
Oh, okay.
I have a
West all the time.
Yeah, I have a friend out in Quinter campus, Dr. Mike Mack, and he gets 4 or 5 students every year.
Yeah.
And do you know Mike?
Yeah.
You know Dr. Mack?
Yeah.
Yeah, fine fellow, just salt of the earth. Jayhawk. Really. Anyway, what he does with his students, he gets people who that door was kicked in while I was told in a police raid. It was a drug raid. That's the apocryphal story. I have to take that as truth because I wasn't here. But he would take out, say, one of the young students he had when I was in Hoxton was a young lady who was basically here from Iceland. And so he introduced her to a lot of things Kansas, like, taking her out to learn to shoot a shotgun or shoot a gun, period. He took a couple of kids who had been fishing, things of that nature. So if you can get somebody like that, it really is a marvelous experience. And Quinter, and I think Colby does something similar with their physicians.
What's it called? The program? What is it called?
Oh, it's just a training program. They come out and they rotate and shadow.
So it's a
See,
3-year med school.
Yeah. KU Med School, so on. But third years get to actually, your first 2 years of medical school are basically all sciences and labs. You do labs and stuff. You don't get to start seeing patients until your third year. And so basically late in that third year, first semester, early second semester, they start sending them out on rotations because they've been around enough patients and things of that nature to, it's fun for them to get out and see patients, and that's what they want to do, and then they get some mentoring from the physicians. And both of the doctors Chima have done some mentoring. We've had a couple of, as I mentioned last month, Elizabeth Husky followed them around. She has an interest in medicine, because we have offers from and take them up on that for a couple of nurse practitioners to shadow as well. Nurse practitioner students, but they're the ones that live close by and don't and have their own house.
So you're just suggesting that one possibility for this house would be to clean it up so that we could use it to house people who come in for a program
Yes,
like that.
absolutely. Absolutely. The other thing is you own a piece of property close to the hospital. The hospital is fairly landlocked and probably not.
And then would that only be filled, say, 2 to 4 to 6 weeks a year?
Probably more like 8 to 12, I would think. But again, you're trying to look at a succession plan to ensure the presence of physicians in this community on down the timeline into the future.
What about the new piece we own now? Or the
Well, we don't own that. The foundation owns that.
foundation owns it?
Yeah. And
That's
so
a possibility.
that's their call, and so that's for them to discuss with the board. We already own this.
I think it's in a lot better shape than this.
Well, yes, I think so.
2,025%.
Yeah.
It's a much newer building.
Yes.
Yes, and that helps a lot. It's been better cared for.
Steve, I was gonna ask you, there's several pieces of furniture left in the house, and
That needs to go to the landfill, all of it, all of it,
yeah,
yes.
the TV's no good.
I don't think you can get parts for a 36-inch tube. It's a cathode ray tube.
No.
So, yeah. It's not a flat screen.
Would it be possible to clean up that house and rent it to whomever and have like a monthly income from it? Just curious. Is that
Well,
anything we've ever done? Or could
Yes,
do?
but by using it for one use, you take it away from another use unless you have a facility that you don't use. Because you can't just rent it for a month or two and say, oh, we've got medical students coming.
No, that's my point. I'm just thinking if we did that with it, you'd have money coming in all the time instead of none.
Right.
It's my opinion, and I will say that it's maybe a somewhat informed opinion since I own a number of rental units. I think the labor, the management involved in running a house in Lincoln would not be worth it.
Yeah.
The rental market here
It's
is
not a lot of dollars just to get that.
I would say 20,000 minimum to get that fixed up.
But at least
At least 20.
But you got
Well, you have to fix it
stuff
up
on the
anyway.
outside that's
When it's
in
due,
bad shape.
right?
Stuff on the
Is that
inside.
right?
You'd have to fix it up anyway if you're going to bring students in there.
Yeah, but you wouldn't have to go right now. I think that could be staged. And again, just putting, when I first got here, we did a strategic planning retreat. One of the things was looking at these kinds of options for success. If we can't get someone like an Elizabeth Husky or somebody like that to come back here.
And look, I must say from standpoint of view from the foundation, it's looking more and more like we're not gonna be able to sell this house and move it. If nobody wants to move a house, I guess. But, so I think there's a possibility there too, so. And it's, okay, we need a dining table and a TV.
You mean a possibility to rent
Yeah.
that house?
Just rent it out.
Well, can work out some kind of deal here with the hospital. I'm sure the rent would be very, very cheap.
Yeah.
for the purpose, as an
Yes,
alternative
yeah.
to that.
Yeah.
Because the investment in that house would be
Pretty good.
nil.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll just say this up front. I think if you pay the electricity and the water and sewage, well, I think that's probably got all the foundation needs out of it. We're not in the trying to money-making rental business.
I think that, well, I think a couple of things to decide. First of all, do we want to pursue that, which I don't know why we wouldn't, but let's make that decision. And then if we do, what's the best way to go about it? Either that facility or that one. But again, I'm not sure that decision is difficult. And then after that.
Yeah, and I don't think you have to decide tonight. I'm just trying to brief you.
Yeah.
But hopefully, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I agree.
Okay.
And then thirdly, when we look at our complete financial statements and how the system works, we live on our depreciation, right?
Right.
So there's an asset over there. So I think the next decision is, does the hospital own it or does the foundation own it? The hospital owning it, it becomes a depreciable asset.
Yes.
So, I think that's the succession where we need to go with this question.
I thought it was already determined that the foundation owned it. Am I
The
wrong?
foundation does own it now.
Oh, I see. You mean if a change were made? Okay.
Yeah, if
Yeah.
the foundation just simply deed it to the hospital, then that money out of our pocket, it would give us a depreciable asset.
I thought maybe I missed something. I see what
Which
you're
in the
saying
long
in the
run helps
future.
our bottom
Yeah.
line.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So,
People that next month or discuss
Yeah, I think you.
I think so.
In the meantime, have some investigation on it.
Yeah.
$3 million limit. Have some appreciation. That would be my report for this evening, unless there's any other questions from the board.
One thing I might add again, Jill, that the clinic visits are up again at both Sylvan here in Lincoln. So, you did mention that.
We went up and down then for the 5 months. It's pretty
Been
much
steady.
plateaued.
Well,
Been steady for 5 months. Going up.
I think the one thing is the doctor's chemo really did not start until mid to late May because of the licensing problems we had with the Board of Healing. So they've had this 3 months. We continue to advertise aggressively both in the Lincoln paper, the Sylvan Lucas paper. We did some initial work with both Ellsworth and Beloit. I'm thinking of restarting that. I had a brief conversation with one of the regional radio stations about branching out into those kinds of markets, but once the county cut our funding, I kind of pulled back on that fairly aggressively. But I think we can do some other lower level kinds of things. It's just getting the light, it will involve a lot of legwork and manual kinds of approaches.
How much revenue is this gonna generate with the injections?
I haven't projected that yet.
No, but,
We're, like I said, we're having the initial planning meeting with the doctor's CHEMA, and we'll have to go out and look at. We have the statistics on how many children we see on a regular basis, and I know they make up a lot. I'm seeing anecdotally as I walk through the clinic more and more young mothers with infants and
Yes.
babies.
Yes.
And so that is starting to pick up. My latest thought is we're running a new series of ads in the Lincoln paper this week and next. It'll be in the Sylvan Lucas paper this week and next. And then I'd like to hit the Ellsworth and Beloit papers as well. We are getting Emily Lindsley, the nurse practitioner we hired, lives and used to work in Ellsworth, and she's bringing her patients up here. The walk-in clinics that we're doing, that the doctors CHEMA have wanted to do, and I supported, are starting to pick up. We had a very good walk-in clinic today at the Sylvan Road, almost all walk-in, about 9 or 10 patients. And so it just takes time to build this.
My daughter-in-law brought my one grandson up here to see Dr. Sheen, and she was impressed about what she was asking him questions about, you know, and this kind of thing. And I think she'll stay.
Yeah. They both like it here so far.
Yeah.
And we just gotta keep it that way. And the feedback I get, and thank you for that, is I get a lot of very positive feedback at my church about the doctor's CHEMA. People will come up to me. I don't solicit it.
And my second one, Jim Center, young mother, told me that she took her son up here. She was thoroughly impressed first time, I guess, and she's going to recommend to her a friend of hers who has been going to Solana to pediatrician who also attended here.
Very questions.
One concern I have is that a lot of times, okay, like when does the walk-in clinic end? It's 7 to when?
4:30. 4:30 is the last block.
But the provider who comes in the morning, what time does that person leave? the 7 a.m. clinic person.
The 7, well, that varies from day to day to day. Let's see, Emily does that walk-in clinic from 7 to 8:30 on Mondays, and then works the regular clinic the rest of the day to 3:30 to get her 8 in. On Tuesday, which is Emily's day off, basically Jessica does that shift. And then the rest of the week, on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, Emily works the walk-in clinic 7 to 8:30, and then fills out the rest of her day at Sylvan Grove. And so
Okay.
that walk-in clinic is there until she's ready to go. Dr. Arshad Chima takes walk-ins anytime he's here. Okay,
Okay,
so
yeah.
technically we have an all-day walk-in clinic. We take walk-ins all day, but we cut them off at 4:30 because we want to be out by 5. But he does. Yes, he was there today in Sylvan. Mrs.
Yeah,
Chima
Tuesdays.
Yasmin will be there on Thursday.
Right.
And then, so Emily's also there that day, so that we have somebody who not only see pediatrics, but also anybody who walks in. Although Yasmin is very good about seeing some of the older children as well.
Well, the problem that I've heard is that sometimes that walk-in clinic person leaves at 8:30, but then the new provider doesn't get in until 10:30.
Well,
And so from 8:30 to 10:30, that 2-hour window, we're turning away patients who would be coming to the clinic.
I'll have to talk to some people. I don't
Yeah.
know if we're turning away. They can be asked to wait because what window you're describing is when Dr. Arshad Chima does his hospital work.
Right, but a lot of times there's 1 or 2 patients in the hospital, and like the Medicare people only need to be seen once a week.
Right.
So I guess I don't understand how that could take from 8:30 to 10:30.
I don't track that. But,
I'm just thinking we need
well,
providers
but-
there all the time. We should never have to say we don't have a provider, or you need to wait 2.5 hours till somebody can come in.
Well, we are kind of limited on what we can do. and
Yeah.
Given that,
We've
Yeah,
got,
given
what,
that
5 or 7 or however
a
many
year
we
ago,
have?
we didn't have
We only
any
have
walk-in
4
clinics.
working in the clinic.
I mean, we're light years ahead of where we were, I guess I'll put it that way.
Yeah, I'm just
We
saying
only
that
have
we've got
4.
some really
Well-
high salaries for a lot of people, so I feel like we should demand that those clinics are staffed all the time.
Well, we pretty much have a provider here all the time. Let's say the walk-in clinic, like I said, on Monday, Emily works that, and she's basically there and goes to Sylvan, but Jessica is there to see patients. Jessica comes in at 8, and she'll be there to see patients in our clinic here from 8 till 4:30, except for the day she's in Sylvan Grove. And now you're making me try to remember all that. The
You don't have to
schedule,
remember it all.
which is Thursday. So there's always a provider in the clinic. So there's always somebody who can see them. But if the patient chooses not to see that provider, that's their choice. And then they have to wait if they want to see Dr. Chima because he's seeing patients. He's very particular about maintaining good contact with his acute and swing back patients. So we always have a provider in there. So I will check with folks. Like I said, we're having a meeting on Friday and to talk about these kinds of operational things and see what we can do.
Well, I've also noticed that the Chimas take off a lot together. Like they'll go to a dental appointment together. They'll go to a doctor. You know, I've called in
You have
and
a
they're like,
problem
oh,
with that?
yeah.
I mean, we
I
let
do.
people go to dental appointments and stuff all the time.
Well, yeah, but like when I went to a dental appointment, my husband didn't take off work to go with me. We
Well,
went
they go
separate
together.
times.
I
I mean, I just think
well,
if you're going to
different
bring
people-
in doctors and pay them a lot of money, they should be available to work a lot of hours.
Yes, ma'am.
And I have nothing personal against them. I had 3
Yes,
kids there in 1 week, so
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
doing my part for the
Yes,
clinics.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
I'm just saying that I think that we could better manage our clinics. I think we need a clinic manager.
Well,
Does that cost us what,
That's another
$50,000?
Well, then we need to have a talk about how a clinic's managed, because I
Well-
don't feel they are well managed.
Lorelei,
Our
Lorelei, I
well,
just
let's
said
save this for
twice,
other
I'm meeting with them
Good.
on this
I'm
Friday
glad
morning
to
to
hear
talk
it.
about those issues.
I think that's a good
Okay.
decision.
They have, everybody takes a little bit of time to acclimate to a new environment. They've had 90 days. We had a hallway meeting on Monday, and set this up. So it's going forward. I'm pleased with the way things are going. When my wife has a dental appointment, I go with her. Okay? When I have a physician's appointment, she goes with me. So I don't think those kinds of characterizations are productive. They're starting to earn their keep, and I think they will earn their keep going forward.
So what day are you having your clinic meeting?
I'm meeting with the Chinos this Friday. This Friday morning. Is basically what we're going to do. Okay?
Great.
And so that will be the initial. We may have a whole clinic meeting then next week or the following week where we'll meet with staff. But this will be a senior kind of thing, because one of the things one of the advantages we have with the 2 physicians we've recruited is they have 25 years of running their own walk-in and other clinics. And so they've been here a little over 90 days, and now they've made some good observations on what we're doing and what we need to do better, and that's what we're going to sit down and discuss Friday morning, as I've said a couple of times.
Good.
All right? I've not been ignoring that subject. I think I mentioned that a couple of times already this
3
meeting.
or 4.
And so-
You mentioned what, 3 or 4
Then
times?
you had a meeting with the Chinos
Yeah.
on Friday.
Yeah.
I heard it once before,
That's-
and then you just said it again.
Okay. So
So
anyway,
I think
we are starting to move forward on this, but it has its own organic kind of process. Okay? Leadership is not always about being in charge and forcing things forward. Leadership is about sometimes taking good care of the people in your charge. Sure. Unless there are other questions, I've concluded my report.
We'll move on to some old business. Is the recruiting committee prepared to make a report on their progress?
Mr. Chairman, the search committee has met, and we'll, I think, start calling some candidates in the very near future. Set up some interviews.
Okay.
Where do you get candidates? I'm just curious, you've met, and you're gonna call candidates, where do you find them?
Where'd you get the name?
Right.
Oh, well,
Is there like a service that provides them, or
yeah,
how do you,
it's on the internet.
like a call list, basically?
There's I don't know how many thousands, but how many people on the
Google it.
Google it.
Google
I didn't bring that.
hospital administrators to get 10,000 hits.
Well,
Well, it wouldn't necessarily help us that.
we are members of Kansas, if you don't mind,
No, go ahead.
Mr. Sir. We're members of the Kansas Hospital Association, so Mr. Serene asked me to contact them and start working that series of resources. And so we've been using the Kansas Hospital Association and resources available through them. As Mr. Serene said, we did meet last Thursday. I did kind of get together with my contacts at the Kansas Hospital Association. We've developed some materials for the search committee, and I can confidently say that they're working on it with the Kansas Hospital Association. It involves people who are in the interim, they're retired, and they do interim work to supplement their income and some things of that nature. So, yes.
Thanks, that's what I wondered. who we were working with and what were the parameters. Thanks.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, I have one other thing, for old business. I requested a copy of our new revised bylaws, how long ago, and I noticed that there's a signature page on here for all board members to sign. I just wondered if the board feels that they need to sign that, or that was a old record for the bylaws.
I thought we signed all that a couple months ago.
Yeah. Oh, you too.
Yeah.
Did we? Okay. Okay, I just didn't get a copy of it. Okay.
Yeah, I think, yeah, you got just the generic unsigned.
Okay. I'll pick that up soon.
Anything else?
Yeah.
Sure.
Can we have a report on the concrete over at the Sylvan?
Well, I know I've signed off on it. And
Has anybody
I'm not that I'm aware of. I would have to touch base with Steve Ladd. I handed all that off to him to handle operations. We got 3 bids and took the low bid. And so we've got the bids, and as soon as he can get to it, the concrete will be in. We did make a deal, if I recall correctly, that we would try to get most of the work done of a weekend. We're also having some of the sidewalk fixed because the owners of the property were responsible for keeping the sidewalk repaired. All of the old concrete, we're supposed to be piling it there for the county to use on some bridge work they're doing over by Sylvan Grove. And so that's how that'll be to the best of my knowledge, that's how that's going to be disposed of. And that's what I know about it now.
Okay. Okay,
And I was
just
gonna,
following up.
Yes, appreciate
and
it.
I was gonna bring this up in new business, but I think this is something old too. But Jim and I have met with Rodney Larson, and we viewed the house over there, and they'll give us a bid for the post-rock community grant.
Right, to demolish it
Yeah.
and then.
And also pile the rock up on the corner up there in the county.
I'm assuming something. What is it? The concrete for the parking lot too, or just the
Yeah,
side
parking lot.
parking lot and sidewalk?
Yeah.
Okay.
Get rid of the swimming pool.
Get rid of the ice rink.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions or comments on old business?
Yeah, I have several things. I move that we make 2 extra packets per month, per meeting, and make them available to the public. It's a matter of hitting a button on a printer so that it makes 12 copies instead of 10 or whatever. And I don't see why we want to be secretive about what we're doing here. Why we wouldn't just want to make that available to the public.
What's the downside?
Well, the downside is that faulty analysis shows up on the internet about what some of the statistics and financial numbers actually represent. The other thing is, and that's part of why I referred all this latest part to our attorney, is to get a better decision again on what the word agenda means. Because what I'm familiar with is talking with other public entities in the county. There's no one that provides the entire board packet to any of the people that show up at the meeting. They get an agenda, and that is the normal kind of thing.
I think Sylvan Unified
Well,
does.
I don't know about Sylvan. I'm talking about here in Lincoln. I haven't been over to Sylvan. I'm talking about here in Lincoln. I'll just call what's close and go from there. So I think that's the downside is that misinterpretation of particular things. The other thing is, we discuss all this in public, it's recorded, we don't ban people from attending this meeting, so I don't know what it's about. The one thing we had done earlier, and this is what I wanted to check with Mr. Hay, is basically everybody talks about our expenses, but nobody wants to do anything about it because, it's just pushing another button. Well, we can continue to push buttons, or we can exercise what we're allowed to do under the Kansas Open Records Act, which is basically charge what it costs us to provide that information to the public requesters. And so that's kind of my position on it. We're the only ones basically being asked to provide this much information in a public venue to be distributed willy-nilly across the internet.
All of our financials at the county commission afterwards, like we get all of our monthly reports on income, expense, and everything, that's open to the public.
Well,
now,
but they can come by and view it.
Right, and we can then get even a printout of it later from Dawn, so we'll provide that. But we don't get packets at the meeting, but you can go get it. It's open public records for all this financial stuff. Really.
Yeah, and that's I just want us to be appropriately reimbursed for the cost of providing that to the public. I think that's appropriate for people who complain about,
So if there's 40
our
pages,
finances.
if there's 40 pages in there, is it really cost us $40 to make that packet?
Well, yes, when you consider who puts the packet together. See, I don't have an administrative assistant, and really neither does Tanya. So we're putting that together at our salary level, which is what the CORA allows us to charge. It's based on the salary of the person putting the thing together. And it's $1 a page is not onerous. I think at one of our meetings earlier, it's not uncommon for official documents from county courthouses to be $1 a page.
Well, I would just like to say that I think that protecting ourselves from the public, or protecting the public from this information, just makes us look guilty of something. It makes us look like we're not transparent, especially when we have issues like now with our budget. It doesn't pay, especially in a small town, to try to hide what you're doing in your meetings.
People are welcome to come to these meetings.
Yeah.
We
They
don't
know
turn
writing all
anyone
that
away.
was in the newspaper.
Anyway.
Hey,
Excuse me.
Excuse you.
You don't have to be rude about where
You're the one being rude and interrupting.
All right, there's enough of this.
Yeah. So, anyway, it's so.
Okay, I'm just saying, if we get a letter from the Attorney General, I just want to go on record saying that I think we're making a huge mistake.
So far this year, I've gotten 2 letters from the Attorney General and have answered those successfully, and nothing has transpired successfully. It's just, that's not that uncommon. So anyway, I just think that in my mind, we're being, people complain about the cost we incur, but they're not willing to help share it.
What if they paid? What if they gave you the paper?
It still takes
time
it still takes our time to put this together, and so that's the basis, and that's allowed in the Kansas Open Records Act. That
What?
was remember the letter I wrote and handed out last month basically addressed that with the statute citations, and so.
There is an issue, which is that we're asking the county to subsidize more and more of the hospital. And good, bad, and indifferent, that doesn't help if somebody wrongly says that they're protecting information. To allow someone to say that is not good when you're looking at the county budget.
I don't understand that.
Probably I think having not only the appearance but the actuality of being open is important. I don't know how else to do it other than handing out paper that people think's they're secret.
Well,
If they're not secret, they should be available. If they are available, they should be emphasized.
we make the agenda available, which is basically the request I've gotten in the past is for the agenda. So I provided the agenda. If you look at your board packet, it says agenda right at the top. And so that's what we've done. You know, if people were being open about their meetings and what's going on in public, and I think the county would have notified us that they were changing the way they do the budget process and allowed us a fair attempt to justify our budget requests going forward. But we were cut out of that until the budget was almost done. So I don't know what that has to do with anything, but that's part of where I'm sitting at this. Is we've had people that are
You're making very strong points, and they're good points. But all I'm saying is, over the long haul, if the hospital is going to be supported by people who don't go to meetings and don't do anything else, but who believe they're being shut out, that's not good.
Well, we don't shut out anybody. We have the newspaper is here every month, as opposed to, you know, all we get are the county's version of what happened at their meetings on a regular basis. You know, what's published is the minutes. So I don't think by a large stretch, we're trying to deceive or mislead them. I think we're trying to keep things fair, honest, and above board, because they, from what I've seen, and it's only what people bring to me, the stuff we have provided to the public has not been fairly represented, because none of those people come back and ask questions about, well, why was this, why was that? We saw that after the last meeting with all of the postings on our audit report, and making it sound on what was published on the internet that there was some reason to suspect fraud in our audit because they didn't do this test or that test. When basically the thing about testing certain parts of the accounting is what would be called boilerplate language. It wasn't done because it wasn't necessary. If it had been necessary to do a forensic audit, our auditors would have done it. But they said, basically, we didn't do it because it wasn't necessary, but that's not how it read on the internet. So I have some concern about that.
You'll never be able to control social
I
media.
understand this, but see, part of that is not being asked to comment on it, and that's very, very deceptive. That's like the New York Times recently, the things that are going on with that.
Mr. G?
Thank you. I just want to first thank Trustee Weber for complying with my request to approach and be shown what I call the agenda, what I believe Steve Granzo refers to as your standard meeting materials. In any case, I want to say that I believe you fully complied with my understanding of the Kansas Open Meetings Act in terms of your conduct for the governmental affairs of your body being open to the public. I had sent a demand letter that I was going to file a complaint after tonight's meeting if I was denied access to that packet. I did try to obtain it in the hospital lobby today and I was denied, but because you provided it to me prior to the meeting, I believe that fully was compliant with KSA 7543.18.3D, which says that any prepared agenda prior to the meeting that is requested by someone like me be provided. I completely respect Mr. Granzo's interpretation of the agenda. As Attorney Kringle probably is familiar, there's been multiple attorney generals and a very familiar appellate court case, Stevens versus City of Hutchinson, where the court looked at this issue and they actually did not rule it in or rule it out, and they mentioned that agendas can be voluminous. But what the court did say in their ruling, and they kind of defined it as a level of openness, is the complainant who was basically arguing subterfuge or concealment, the court basically said that as long as you comply with someone's request to see it in one of several ways, you are being compliant with the act. The court specifically said that if you make one copy of those materials available in a public place, which I believe is what Lorelei is moving, you would cover yourselves so that if anybody ever came to a meeting and said you weren't being open about those pre-prepared and pre-distributed matters of business conduct, if you keep them available during open hours of your hospital, that, the court said, would meet that minimum threshold. The same court case also was responding, because this was a court case involving a county commission, as the complainant, in this case would be me, never said that he approached anyone during the meeting to see it. So, for example, when you conduct things like your minutes and your treasurer reports and your accounts payables without reading them, as long as you make them available in your lobby, or like Trustee Weber did, let me see them prior to your meeting start, or, and I wouldn't recommend this, forcing someone like me, and I was prepared to do this tonight had Trustee Weber not obliged, approach you during the meeting to read, I believe your attorney would argue that you could be subject to a complaint of not conducting yourselves open enough according to the Open Meetings Act. It's just my opinion. I'm not an attorney, but I'll leave it as saying I'm very satisfied with your openness tonight, and I do very much appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
What does your attorney say about printing half-truths on Facebook?
Are you asking me?
Yes.
With regards to Steve Granzo's complaint about my post about the audit report, I believe the text that I put in that post was verbatim from the letter of your auditor. So if he implied that it...
That's not what I'm implying.
Well, you'll have to give me a specific example.
2 months ago, Randy Lohman asked if he could get a packet like this shipped up.
Mm-hmm.
You put on there on a Facebook post that it was deplorable that a county commissioner would have to ask to get one of these packets. But you didn't print the rest of the story where Tanya said, I've shipped a packet up to the clerk's office for 30 years every month. You didn't put the rest of the story in.
Well, you're quoting something that I'm going to just deny on the basis that if you show me the post, I'll respond to it. But I believe what I have if assuming I said anything like that, I would have pointed out, if anything, that Commissioner Lohman at multiple meetings made it clear that he was either unable or it was onerous for him to get the packet for several months, and not one of you ever offered, I believe, to share the packet or run a copy off for him.
Well, and part of that was my fault, because we talked about that tonight, David.
Sure.
Was because she sends it out. It was there like today. I went and got it. Before, when I was new commissioner coming in, I just came here, and I didn't have it yet sent to the courthouse yet on yesterday, Monday, when we had our meeting. So I didn't know I was going to get it. So it was there like today, and I got it today. Now I know it's there. So there was a misunderstanding, so my fault. So it wasn't like they didn't send it to the commissioners. It's just I didn't know it was there on the Monday to get it. So part of that's my misunderstanding, saying I didn't have it. Well, it was there, and she sent it out. So that's what happened here, and I don't want to blame Tanya or anybody, because it was sent to me. It's just I didn't know it was going to be there. It comes in on like today, Tuesday morning, or yesterday afternoon, and I got it today. So
I respectfully deny what you're suggesting that I said on Facebook, but if you can produce the post that you apparently quoted, I'll be very happy to respond to it in the future. And I agree with you fully, Commissioner.
Yeah, and I said I didn't give it, and then you thought that they didn't give it to me, but they had, and I didn't know it was there.
I never was under that
okay.
impression.
I didn't know.
I was simply.
I didn't know.
Anyone that requests a copy of certain materials or to see them during an open meeting should be afforded that opportunity.
Well, they sent me the packet. They probably thought I should have my packet. So, and I was new. I didn't know it was coming in. So there was all this misunderstanding. So
Lorelei's motion would solve that problem in the future.
Yes, it would. And it's not just the legal. You know, we can go round and round and round about what the lawyer says and how much we're paying him to get his opinion. The question is, to me, what that looks like to the public when we're coming forward asking for thousands and thousands of dollars to bail out the hospital, but by the way, you're going to have to jump through hoops to find out what we're doing in our meetings. It doesn't look good. And that would be the main reason. It's not a legal issue, it's a public relations issue, and it's a trust issue, an honesty issue, and a transparency issue, in my opinion. That's why I'm beating this dead horse.
When did we lose your trust? That's what I want to know. When did we lose our community's trust?
That time the Facebook page went up, I'd say.
Yeah, that's it. We'd like to blame it all on Facebook. I think it has to do with a lot. I mean, we've had Open Meetings Act. We had LCCA actually had to sit down in a meeting with people from Topeka to explain to them the Open Meetings Act because they had no idea what it meant or what it was. That was several years ago, and I do think that was the beginning. People who are aware of what goes on in the county realize now that there are laws that make them capable of seeing how this money is spent, where it's spent, why it's spent, and they're asking questions, as well they should be.
No, I
It's their taxpayer money, and I do think there are trust questions. I know with the LCCA there were huge trust questions at one time. I know that our county attorney has had questions about open meetings on numerous occasions brought to her. So yeah, I'd say it probably goes back 3 or 4 years. And things keep coming up. New groups need to be schooled, for the lack of a better word, on the open meetings and the open records and what that means. And it doesn't even mean it's anybody's fault. It just means that if you don't want people to wonder what you're doing, show them. Because if that packet was available up there and something was posted on the internet that upset them, they could walk right in there and they could look at that packet and say, oh, somebody on the internet lied about this because I just looked it up in this packet and that isn't what it says. But if they have to guess and wonder, then they're not able to do that. Then the fuel is thrown on the fire.
Not everybody, but some people, right?
A lot of people.
Because some people aren't just conspiracy theorists or whatnot.
I don't think it takes a conspiracy theorist. I think it takes somebody who cares about how their tax dollars are spent. You don't have to be a loon to want to know how your tax dollars are spent.
My concern is that somebody may look at this board packet and interpret it one way and then believe one thing to be true, but someone else might, and then they may post it and someone might read it and they might go in and look at the packet and they might interpret it in a different way because not everybody has the education and the knowledge to be able to understand those reports.
But according to Kansas Open Records, that's not
the chair wants
something
the
you
table
can
back
hide.
so we can get on with business.
We have a motion on the floor.
Sir?
We have a motion on the floor, but motion's been made. Yeah, it's been made.
Motion has been made.
Has it been seconded?
I have not heard a second.
Okay.
The motion dies for lack of second.
Pardon?
The motion dies for lack of second. The motion dies for lack of second, is what, is that right?
You're saving me to say that.
No, I'm just saying, I think that's how it's
It
said.
died for lack of a second.
Thanks. Get that on record.
New business. Other than the accounts payable. Let's do the accounts payable. My only question was, where were we at on our progress of repaying the 304? And you answered that. It should be done.
We have our fingers crossed. And like you said, anything can kind of come in out of the darkness and fight us.
The tunnel has a light at the end.
And hopefully it's not a train.
And that 304, is that?
340B.
Or 340B, is that we've got pharmacy drugs or whatever, then we have to pay back because there's some reason, or?
Well,
Exactly.
yes.
Well, yeah, because, and so we're reimbursing them back. What we
Right.
Okay.
Money that we received.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I move we pay the bills in the amount of $601,505.34.
Motion is made and seconded. Pay the bills in the amount of money that he said, which is more than I'd like to talk about. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, same sign. It's carried. Is there any other new business?
I had a question that I wanted to bring up.
Is it new business?
Well, yeah?
Okay, good.
Isn't that what we're on? I would like to maybe suggest, again, this idea of an every door direct mailing. We could take these ads that we're putting in the paper, which are really expensive, and we could print one up, and for $50, I guess $52, you can send that to every house in an entire zip code. And we could do, I think we did actually 2 zip codes around Sylvan for $52. And I just would like to get, because a lot of people, no offense, do not get newspapers anymore these days because they think they're getting the news off the internet, which is ridiculous when you're talking about local news.
If you provide me the contact information, I would be
Okay,
happy
great.
to contact those
Because
people
I want to
online
get it
and
into every
look at
single
that.
house in the area. And the other
And
thing,
I remember you bringing that up. I'm sorry, I
Oh, that's
sometimes
okay.
get distracted, but if you'll
I
get
can go
me
to
the
my
information-
postmistress and get that
Would you
information.
please? Yeah.
And the other thing I also wanted to suggest, I don't know, this might not be any good at all, but I wondered about open houses in the clinics. I mean, I know, people are having their hot dog days or their ice cream bar days or whatever they're doing. If it would be good to have open houses in the clinics just to try to get people in to meet the new doctors. People do crazy things for a free hot dog, or a thing of
Well, we
popcorn.
did have a reception for them early on. but
Yeah.
There's no reason not to maybe have another in some venue.
Like I said, I don't know if that would work, but I thought it might be something that we could think about.
We can.
I'm just concerned because I feel like we lost a lot of people between October and May, and now we need to find a way
Well,
to get them drawn back in.
There were a lot of rumors that several hundred people have left. We did not have a fraction of those medical record requests. Most people, if they're leaving one practice for another, request their old medical records, and we just don't have any evidence of that. So I think part of what we have here now is a seasonal kind of thing because it's still warm and nice.
My question is, Commissioner Loman, you've been to the Highway Department, you've been to the Health Department, you've been to EMS, or you've been to the hospital for free meal?
Yeah, we may do that with a board here, huh?
May?
Yeah, well, you have your own board. Those, they don't have
Well,
boards.
I'd really see.
It's like the school board has its own board.
I
We're
would
not
see
changing
it's
that.
not, or see the employees
Well, we may do that. We'll have to talk about it.
can move forward.
Well, we've been paying for it ourselves, me, Jim, and Alexis.
Okay.
So it ain't coming out of any county money, okay?
That's good.
That's cool.
And also, while we're talking about that, we were wanting to invite the board next, if you can come, next, just to visit with the board. The commissioners want to visit with you guys, just to see where we're at with the whole hospital situation. Because we know Mr. Granville's going to retire coming up, and just wanted to talk to you guys. And that was next Monday. I don't know if you can make it at 6. Can you guys make it next Monday night at 6 o'clock? Or if you can't, maybe next Wednesday at 6. One of those 2 nights. The board.
So would this be an official hospital board meeting if we all show up?
Well, we're going to have a official commissioner meeting, and all of us are going to be there. I don't know. Can you have a hospital board meeting and commissioner board meeting all at the same time? I guess so.
Why not?
I don't know. We just want to discuss where we're at. It's no big. It's just.
Before we have any discussion and answer questions about the hospital from the official standpoint of a board, it better be a meeting.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
I guess my question is, so you already have dates and times in mind. Is this meeting for other people there, or is this?
It's open meetings to everybody.
Well, no, I understand that, but I mean, is any other other boards?
No,
invited
no,
also,
no,
or
no
is
other
this
business,
just for
no.
the specific purpose of
Just for meeting
talking
you
to the
guys
hospital
and talk to the board, yeah, the hospital board for that matter. Yeah, no other business. Well, our normal meeting, of course, is at 10 o'clock Monday
Right.
morning. We just wanted to discuss with you guys about where we're at. It's not a come down on you guys or nothing like that. It's just visit with you about the situation. Because a lot of times, like I come here and I'm just a representative and I'm not really saying much of anything. But maybe we could discuss, you know, the whole hospital situation with commissioners to the hospital board. Can you guys do that next Monday night, you think, at 6?
I cannot.
Okay.
I can.
How about Wednesday night at 6?
That'll be better for me.
Oh, you can make next week Wednesday night at 6?
Yeah, I can
The
make
board? And Mr. Granzo, you're invited if you want to come, but it's really for the board,
You
but...
better,
But well, yeah, you're not excluded. It's just we was asked for I asked for the board, and so yeah, and anybody, it's open public records to anybody, obviously. But we just wanted to visit with you guys. Okay, next Wednesday night then. Okay, I'll get that. The 25th of September.
at the courthouse.
Yeah, courthouse meeting room.
You use the word situation. What do you mean by situation?
Well, we have Mr. Granzal's leaving, and we want to visit with you guys about. I know you talked in here about your having your search committee, where you're at on that type of thing. There is no other situation. I know there's an issue because we've cut your budget back some, and hopefully that won't happen next year. Hopefully we can meet your 10 mills next year. Of course, the valuation may come down, so it may be less than what it would have been this year. We were limited on that. We could only went 1.5% above our lid anyway. We had a tax lid come in, and I know we had to go $500,000 less than last year, or this year's budget $500,000 less. So we went from like $7 million to $6.5 million that we can tax property tax wise ad valorem. So, and that's why. And we didn't mean to pick on you guys or the hospital. We also went to the nursing home, $100,000. Also, employee benefits for the county benefits. We cut them back too for this year, and also the obviously the Lincoln Council on Aging or the senior center. So we're not wanting to do this. It's just that we could have put a vote to the public to raise taxes for this year's election. Maybe we can do that. But a lot of people told me they don't want to raise taxes. So
just as I tried to point out earlier, if I could again, you hit the senior citizens of this county fairly.
Well, the reason
and services provided to them.
And make it like that may like you'd be right, but we said we have our normal budget for departments. We got to fund our departments, which is the sheriff's department, the highway department, the health department, the EMS, and the employees for that. Those are our primary departments that we have to fund. Then the extra appropriations is where we had some discrepancy, a place where we could adjust, and you guys are in part of it. The hospital is. There's nothing against the hospital. I like the hospital. We all do. It's just that we usually have to lower that lid to $500,000 total, or put a vote on, and there's no guarantee the vote's going to pass anyway. So,
but it takes pressure off your back.
Well, there you go. I eat, and now I'm getting my butt chewed out because I didn't raise taxes. But next year maybe we'll do that. We'll put a vote to the public, and then we'll be.
I urge to have a special election next spring for the hospital to come down.
Well, I don't think we'll do that, Alan. We're not going to have no special election. First of all, we only cut you back. You're $70,000 less than you were last year. It was $570,000 this year. It'll be $500,000 next year. That's $70,000, and you have $8.5 million in expense here, and you had $7.2 million in income. So we cut you back 1% of their total revenue of income. Now, I'm sorry, 1% out of $7.2 million is not that much money. Now I know $70,000 is $70,000 less, and if it would have went up to your total 10 mills with the valuation, it would have been $120,000 more than this year. But that's where we're at.
You're saying we shouldn't give our employees a raise.
I ain't saying none of that. I'm just saying this 1%. I see here where you got $55,000 you're paying back for this 340B stuff, and I see $300,000 a year in contract nursing. I mean, I see a lot of places where there's a lot of expense, and I'm not saying I don't know what to cut. I'm not a hospital expert, but we cut you guys back 1%, and I know That's not good. Nobody wants to be cut back. But I'll tell you, when I ran for office, everybody says, well, our taxes are too damn high. And that's one reason I ran, and that's what I'm in.
Is that the people that voted for you?
Yes. Well, you maybe didn't. But,
Well,
because you ain't I just
no,
give you a vote for you.
No, but my question is, well,
Yeah,
there's a small.
Well, you have the attitude too, though. We just have to keep funding the hospital, no matter how much you ask every year. Your 10 mils, if valuation goes up to $1 million from the county, we got to supply it, and that's the way it is. I don't believe in that either, Alan.
Well, but
We got a limit. We got a limit too.
But give me some figures someday how much the absentee landowners in this county pay for taxes. The people that's contacting you are only the people that live here. There's
Well, the voters, sure.
so, but there's how many more people that probably live in out of state, out of county that's paying, and I bet you don't hear from them, do you?
Well, no, because they're not living here. Obviously, the farmers like Richard, these guys who have a lot of farmland, they're paying the bulk share of the taxes in this county, and because they got a lot of farmland, and that's because of property tax. That's just where we operate here. I mean, it's just our situation. We're not against the hospital. I'm not. It's just that we ought to make a tough decision financially here, and probably will in the future. You know. Anyway, so next Wednesday, please, if you could, at 6 o'clock at the courthouse. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I move we adjourn.
I'll second that.
Move we adjourn.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Definitely.
Bad enough?